Meeting the Southbury Board of Finance will come to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, seating of alternates, not necessary tonight because all our regular members are here, but our non-regular members, please participate. That's about all I can say. Approval of the minutes of October 21st. They were sent.
Motion to approve, so the 95%.
Say again?
There's a
Turn your mic on.
motion to approve.
Put it close. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Comments?
Yeah, the 95% funded is not consistent with the actuarial report.
I think it's 80, I think it's a
No, no, there's
95%
they
goal.
Well, they did it they broke it up, okay? And the pension is 92.7%. The non-police pension is 92.7%, not 95%.
Can you put closer, please?
Okay. And just a question of fact, the 5 million in this year, is that fiscal year or this calendar year?
Which,
There was a thing in there about 5 million is going to be spent this year.
I don't remember the context.
In the minutes.
Relative to what concept?
On
Oh, there it
FEMA.
is. FEMA.
No more than 5 million in repairs this fiscal year. This fiscal year, is it? Okay,
Yes,
so by the end of June, right?
That's what we're thinking, Tom, yes.
Okay,
that is one of several iterations,
okay,
one of several.
okay,
We'll talk more about that in a minute.
okay.
Given that one comment and two change, any further additions or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstaining, so ordered. Public comment, there's no one here from the public. The meeting schedule. This is the draft of the meeting schedule. It's due December 1st in the town clerk's office. We can't have a meeting in January unless it's posted 30 days before, so that's why we do this now. Are there any comments or additions or corrections? June 20, yes,
Why
Jack?
don't we do this consistently the same day of the month, like the third Monday? January's the second Monday.
It's because the third is
Holidays.
a holiday, Jay. The third's a holiday.
Mondays are
The
holidays.
third,
Martin
the
Luther- Martin-
20th of January is.
It's Martin
Martin Luther
Luther
King
King
Day.
Day.
Oh, is
Yes.
it?
So we try and do it for the third unless it falls on a holiday, then we'll do it on the second, with the exception of June, which is we always do it the last Monday, considering we're in kind of a recess for July and August.
Understanding that will create conflicts.
Because with who?
I have a conflict with the, as you do with the second Monday of the month.
Oh, well, I guess for me, this takes precedent. We're elected, so this is a little different,
And that will take precedence for me.
and that's not a problem. So you and I will figure that out in
You
another
guys
venue.
can tag team,
But
okay?
April is the second?
Yes.
What's
Is that
it- is-
another holiday?
I don't remember. I was just trying to be consistent with what we did last year and the prior year, and this is how the schedule worked.
Oh, that may have something to do with the budget cycle.
That is, yes.
The budget cycle
Yep.
schedule.
Yeah,
Which
because you
remind-
guys forget, in February and March, we'll have a full week of meetings as well.
Well, as an aside,
Understand that.
understand, could you publish that schedule get that together with First Selectman
Yep,
sometime?
we usually publish that in December, but we'll try
Right.
and get out earlier.
Well, no, December's good.
Yep.
Okay, before our next meeting, that'd be great. Okay, with that explanation, is there any other questions or comments?
I'm not against making this quarterly either, if you guys are interested.
Yeah, right. Okay, all those in favor of adopting this as our official schedule for 2025, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstaining? So ordered. Next order of business. Okay, potential ARPA funding for resident fund relief. Dan?
So we're gonna have an ARPA meeting. This week, I just talked to one of our selectmen who's on the ARPA task force. He's available prior to the selectmen meeting this Thursday, so John, I'll send you out an invite as
Okay.
well for that. We're trying to set up a fund from our ARPA funding, which is available ARPA balances of $400,000 to help out storm relief for residents that either they didn't get approved by FEMA or they got something from FEMA but wasn't enough to help them to complete their driveway or repairs. So we're trying to structure it very similar to the Small Cities Program. We have some volunteers. John was fortunate enough to get us someone from CCF that would help us out with it. And I think the selectmen are setting up a committee to work on this as well. So more to come as we set this up, but it looks like we're going to set up a fund of about $400,000 to do this.
As a point of information, I think this is a Board of Selectmen thing.
Yep.
Technically, they've appointed a committee. This is not taxpayers' money, so the Board of Finance is kept, has an oar in the water, but no say. And the ARPA committee is looking, and Dan, I think, hopefully can confirm that the remaining money will take care of, what is it?
We'll take care of $1.1 million will go to the ladder truck.
For the ladder truck, which was part of the master plan. We haven't disturbed that concept. This is money that can be jury-rigged.
What if there's too much, like, I mean, there's too many requests? Like, are you gonna do it similar to what we did with the charities?
Something similar, but we'll have to wait till the committee's all set up. I believe Jeff had tasked Jason Van Stone and Tim O'Neill with putting together a plan, and we have a couple of volunteers that want to help out as well.
Okay.
So that's a point of information. Any other questions on that? Hopefully not. Okay, moving on. FEMA.
FEMA
Dan.
update, I sent out the FEMA slide deck to everyone. Hopefully, everyone had a chance to look at it, but we had a call with FEMA on what we are approved for. 75% funding of projects over $1 million, major, what they call a major project. So as we start putting together projects in our FEMA, we haven't been given a FEMA rep yet, but as soon as we are, I'm sure they'll come to town and we'll get more information on the individual projects. So it's a 75-25, so 75% funding.
Betsy, can you give us the slide? Can you make it just a little bigger? I don't know, just a tad. I still can't see it. I think I need glasses, guys. Well, okay, no, okay, that should be good enough.
Could be the lighting in here too, John. if you
Okay,
turn
oh yeah, maybe turn one of those
the
lights down,
off, you might be able to see.
and then we're gonna turn this on.
That's better, Betsy.
Where's the on button? Oh, there's. On. Okay, Betsy, you're gonna have to make this column bigger. Perfect. Okay. This is a concept that relates to the $10 million that Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance voted for a bond issue for sometime in December. How does that all work?
Which was approved at a town meeting.
It has been approved, yes. So for the Board of, and after the meeting with FEMA, we have a little more clarity on how the whole thing might work. And after talking to the bond counsel, the lawyer, and our financial advisor, they've all agreed that this is how the whole thing comes together, okay? So, we have a town meeting, $6 million authorization to spend from our undesignated general fund. We're going to borrow $10 million in bond anticipation notes. We're going to pay off immediately that $6 million. We borrowed it from ourselves just so we could have the authority to start issuing purchase orders and start spending money before we even got any money from the bands. So that's just an in and out. Next, the Board of the first selectman and the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance approved two $500,000 authorizations in August and September for emergencies. FEMA, this is all the money coming in. FEMA is going to reimburse us 75% of something. We'll talk about that in a minute. This is the total column, and this is in what year it would happen. Next, let's see. What does that say?
DS budget appropriation?
Let me do this one first. We're going to get the $10 million from the bond issue, and we're not going to spend it all at once. We're going to spend it over 2 years, and it'll sit in a fund, and we're going to earn, let's say, 2% on that fund. So that'll be money coming in. Next, we currently have a debt service fund that currently has in it, which is this? Is this the right one?
That's the increase, John, to the payment above the debt service to 290. That's we wanted to do a 1/10 of a mil each year.
Can you go down to the bottom, Betsy? Yep, okay, let's keep going. Let's go back. So, this whole thing comes together. The whole thing comes together with $10 million worth of projects if we increase our mill rate next year 1/10 of a mil. In order to make this whole thing work, this plan would happen with 1/10 of a mil increase.
All other things being equal.
All other things being equal, because everything on here is subject to change as time goes on. We'll get to that a little more in a second. This is the current debt service budget allocation in the current budget. So we are already putting $326,000 in a budget line for debt service, which is currently funding possibly a $4 million trails program, which may fall by the wayside. So here are all we're going to take in, what's that, $30 million plus, and this much in each of these years. Next, what are we going to use it for? Assuming we get approved by FEMA for $10 million worth of work, which is the bond issue we're going out for. And assuming, we can do $5.5 million this year, this fiscal year, and $4.5 million next fiscal year. The road folks can only do so much forced account and issue so many contracts to get this done in a given year. Next, at a meeting with the Public Works Director, we understand, another comment. We will not know for sure what will be approved by FEMA for a 75% reimbursement until the program manager gets here at the end of December and January. Let that sink in for a minute. We think
We gotta make some decisions now.
we got to make decisions now, and we have to support a $10 million bond issue, believing that it's highly likely, not absolute rock solid likely, that we will get reimbursed 75% of $10 million. There's a list of projects which has been propagated by the Public Works Department. Next, FEMA is some of the work that we would want to do it right in these, let's say there's 10 projects. I don't know how many there is, just a number. If there are 10 projects, FEMA will probably okay 75% reimbursement on $10 million worth of work. But the public works people say, you know, if we had a little extra money, we could do it the way it should be done, not just what FEMA will authorize us reimbursements for. This is a bad example, but it's, you know, I'm not a road guy, so I can't think of a good example. If FEMA will reimburse us 2 inches of tar, and we want to put 3 inches of tar, then we should put 3 inches of tar, but we won't get reimbursed for that extra inch of tar. So, bad example, but it gives me the idea. We anticipate more money being spent. I put a number in here, 15%. I don't know what it is, but this is the idea. There's going to be, the First Selectman has appointed an advisory committee, including Jack and myself and Dan and Blake, to make sure we're doing the right kind of work relative to reimbursement and what we should be doing in order not to get extra life and do it right. Next, we have to reimburse ourselves the $1 million we took out. Makes this thing balance. Next. Oh, I forgot this line item. We also anticipate, I forgot this one, I'm sorry, temporarily reallocating some of our existing reserves for a cash flow basis to make this thing balance, the ins and the outs. What that means is some of our reserves are going to be a little short of their modeled cash until they get reimbursed here in these years. So in, what's that, 30, 31, and 32, we'll be putting this much money back into those specific funds which we're going to borrow from ourselves. And the town attorney will help us write this somehow. I have no idea to write it, but we've got the cash. There's no sense letting it sit there and borrowing we don't have to. Next, the cash flow, we're going to pay ourselves back the $6 million we loaned the fund temporarily. Next, this is, what does that say? I can't read it.
Debt service payment? Payment on the bands.
The payment on the bands. When FEMA gives us these reimbursements, they're going to give us 75% in 2 years later on this work, this plus this, and we'll get reimbursed by FEMA. Then we will have enough cash to reimburse ourselves this, and this. Excuse me, reimburse the fund. This fund, which is going to pay pay back FEMA. Okay, let's keep going here. Is that what that says? No, what does that say, Dan?
That's interesting.
I'm sorry,
Rolling bands, John.
I lied. This is the interest on the rolling bands. We're going to have to pay 3.15% interest on the balance of these bands. I'm sorry, I misread it. The balance on these bands, I'm sorry, how does this work? We're going to borrow $10 million for a year. At the end of a year, we have to pay it back. Then we're going to borrow it again to roll it because we don't have enough money. No money's coming in of significance. And then we'll be able to pay down the bands here, here, and here for a total of $10 million. We'll have borrowed 10, and we'll pay back the 10 in these years based on this total cash flow, giving us a balance in the fund. Starts with 10 million, stays 10 million, and then we start paying money off. fund, and the interest on the bands will go down. The interest we have to pay on the band will go down because I have left money invested in bands. So what happens is, this is how much money we take in each year. This is how much money goes out each year. This is the fund balance. This is how much goes out. This is the net ins and outs. And then this is the fund balance at the end of each year, rolling based on the net ins and outs. So the fund balance goes down to virtually nothing here. After the second year, when we start paying off, the fund is down to almost zero. So this is how all the pieces come together. Every one of these numbers is going to change because the interest rate's going to be different. We may or may not get approval for all this 10. We won't know till January.
Size of projects is not fully defined yet.
Correct.
Scope and price.
We don't know how much extra money we're going to need to do it right. There's just so much we don't know here. But we have to have a plan to support how this whole thing works. So the Board of Finance now has a plan for the taxpayers and the Board of Selectmen, the fiscal office, that shows if we borrow 10 based on all these assumptions, here's how it gets paid back. And at the end, there is no permanent borrowing because we will have increased for one time a tenth of a mil for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, but then, is that the right column? There, that's the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, and then it falls off. We won't need, we can take that tenth of a mil out of the mill rate. Are there any questions?
Dan,
Yes.
on the bands, are you gonna do the 10 at one time? Are they gonna be one maturity? Are we gonna stagger them? Are they gonna be callable?
We're going to do 10 at one time, John, and it is going to be callable.
It is gonna be callable.
Yes.
Okay,
it's
so
a-
if we have to renew it,
Yes, every year.
redeem it in advance.
Yep.
We can call, and the call dates will be staggered along the line somewhere, or callable at our option?
It'll be callable at our option, yes.
Okay,
Yeah, and that's based upon our FEMA reimbursement, so.
okay. Now, is there just one other, if we have excess?
that on
Okay, yeah.
put it close to your mouth.
If we do have
Closer,
excess
please.
cash that we don't need, now, are we allowed under state statute to arbitrage that? Because if we're paying a tax exempt rate, can we hold it, continue to borrow at the arbitrage rate and invest it at a higher rate?
We, by government standards, are not allowed to arbitrage our funds. Of course not. But we will take the money, we will put it in our usual strategy with all of our cash.
Okay.
And it'll be swept out to our STIF.
Okay, and
Fine.
normally, we've been pretty good, and we've been earning better than we would have been paid in tax exempt short-term, on our short-term money, no?
We're
Because
not,
we've been
we're not,
earning
if we
4
get,
or 5% on STIF. over-
John, if there's any arbitrage, we have to send the money back.
Yeah, we.
That's the law.
Okay, that's the
So,
answer then. Okay.
We should at
So we
least
don't
make
get
what
any
it costs.
profit If
No.
we want to arbitrage,
No.
okay.
Are there any other questions?
Well,
Yes, Tom?
so I guess I didn't understand your comment about talking to the lawyers about getting the money back. Isn't it just an accounting thing?
Talk,
Like the
I'm sorry,
620, the 620, you know, taking it from the reserves and then getting it back.
I'm
Isn't it
sorry,
really just?
which number? This one?
Yes.
We don't need the lawyers to do that. What we'll have is there'll be enough money in this fund at year end to bond $620,000 less than the 10 million.
Well, I guess, so I don't know why you talk, I guess I didn't understand your reference to lawyers. It's just kind of reserve accounting, isn't it?
I didn't, I'm sorry if I confused everyone. The lawyers have nothing to do with that.
Okay.
The whole scheme, the concept of the timing and when comes, what goes in and what goes out is created in accordance with the lawyers tell us how these rolling bans and reimbursements work.
That was the comment that you made, that there will be some lawyer legalese in structuring this. Right.
The concept,
Consistent,
The-
this concept, consistent with our needs.
right.
Both the goes-ins and the goes-outs.
Well, I get the overall lawyer thing, but at the point, when you pointed to that, I didn't understand the lawyer reference because I think it's just our
Well,
accounting for how we count.
I'm
our
sorry if I
reserves.
wasn't clear.
Okay.
Anything
Okay.
else?
Do you want to go through the thing we talked about this afternoon about?
Sure. Yeah.
So I guess I asked John this afternoon, and he, of course, this is just a template right now, right? But the 10 and the 30 million on this template are a far cry from the 90 million, that's been kind of put out sometimes in the press and stuff. And so I was asking, what's the difference between the 30 million and the 90 million?
I'd be happy to explain it as best I understand it.
Yeah, so could you just again go through that?
Okay.
I think it's worth.
At a Board of Selectmen meeting, there was a resolution, Board of Finance approved it, town meeting approved it to, I think there was a $91 million number as the anticipated damage that could be attributed to this flood. I'm using those words very advisedly. The town was asked to create a list of projects that might need to be remediated because they were affected by the rain and the flood. The list,
In the first 2 or 3 weeks after the flood.
yes, we were supposed to, we had to create a list. And I would use the characterization of projects that were affected to one extent or the other, a little or a lot, by the flood. Very quickly after the flood happened. It has come to pass, well, let's fast forward to January 1st, when the project manager appointed by FEMA, who is a state employee, I believe, he's a state guy, isn't he? Who's a FEMA, he's a federal employee, okay. The feds are gonna send an expert down here who can take each of the 40 projects who are on the $90 million list and tell us, no, that doesn't, for 75 reimbursement, this project doesn't qualify. Half of this project qualifies. 20% of this project qualifies. All of that project qualifies. We have no idea determinatively today what that project manager is going to say. So that's what the $91 million is. The $10 million list, which was voted on at the town meeting, was a list prepared by the Public Works people who divined
Now, 2.5 months after the flood.
two and a half,
They've been working on roads, culverts, and.
and
catch
the
basins,
library,
And the library continuously.
and talking
for
more
2.5
and
months.
talking more and more with FEMA people who have no authority to make a decision, because only the project manager does, I understand. The Public Works people have come up with a $10 million list that they say, and I'll characterize this as highly likely that virtually all, two weasel words, highly likely, virtually all of that will be subject to $75 75% reimbursement, knowing that even then, we don't know until the federal employee shows up January 1st, but we've got to have something. So that's the the $10 million, and that's the 91. I think, are those, Jack, you think fair characterizations of those, where those two
Yes,
numbers?
in general, I could give a couple of specific examples.
You turned on.
The
and-
single largest item in the 91 million was a catch-all of 30 million to clean out culverts and catch basins. We have 5,000 catch basins and I don't know how many thousand miles of culverts in town. With the flow of the water, it carried a lot of sand and gravel down into the pipe. Some of the pipes were completely blocked, many are partially blocked. Blake and his team made an early assessment. I don't think today they believe that is close to a $30 million. There are known problems, and there's more pipe and catch basins that need to be assessed before the final number will be determined. The 30 million was a worst-case number. A second example is that Oldfield was included. Reparation of Oldfield, that's still,
Yeah.
but on second view, Oldfield has already been approved for funding under a different program, and so won't be eligible for FEMA funding. It'll be funded by the state. What's the name of that
It's
program?
the state local bridge program
Yeah.
from the DOT. No, it's actually the federal DOT with the state local bridge program. We've been approved for that a year ago. We've already been in design for that, so the design is already done and,
There's some modifications
With
that
some
are gonna be made
modifications.
because of the extent of the flooding taking out a much, I mean, we were replacing a culvert originally, now we're doing it's a much different scope as a starting point, because the culvert doesn't exist anymore. But that will be funded under the state bridge program, not under FEMA, and so that's coming off the list. So there are two examples of specific changes that are being made in scope.
Yeah, I mean, my original question was more on trying to get a sense of the bread box. You know, is the bread box 90? Is the bread box 30? Is the bread box 40? You know, and if some of it is because we have better estimates, then we know the bread box is smaller than 90, and we've put that in. If some of it is still to be determined, that's fine, at least we know that, but.
The
but-
10 is Blake and his team's best estimate today on what it's gonna cost to restore roads and culverts, the library to
Because
before flood condition.
I mean, because the other parameter to me is that, you know, the parameter that's driving a lot of John's stuff is what FEMA will reimburse, right? If FEMA won't reimburse it, right, but it's really needed, then we've got to manage it through time somehow, you know, in our budgeting, right? And I feel like that's part of what our end game is the next year or two, is to figure out what that piece is and how we manage it through time financially, right?
Well, embedded in that analysis is $2.5 million of funding. That's the 25% that FEMA is not reimbursing.
Well, I get that, but there's also, let's suppose they're not, of the 90 million, half the projects, they say, no, we won't do that. The question is whether that project is, you know, I mean, if that project is worthwhile doing, let's say, then we have to figure out how to finance it, and finance it. I mean, I guess the beauty of this is that we, again, can juggle time a lot. You know, we don't have to finance it all today, but if it's important enough, then we have to figure out how to juggle it in time and finance it, I guess, right?
Right.
Are there any other questions? If not, we will move on. Next item, First Selectman's Report. Jeff
what-
Sn-
what-
Whoops.
One quick question, not so
Sure.
much related to this, but didn't we talk about a zero-interest loan?
Say that, what?
we
We
did.
talked, last time in
there-
the minutes, we talked about looking at a
There
zero-interest
was,
loan.
there was some talk about working with the federal government or the state government on zero-interest loans, and in speaking with, you know, Representative Hayes's office and and Senator Blumenthal's office, the zero interest loans are not available.
Okay.
Vapor.
Okay, moving on. First Selectors Report, Jeff is not here. Is there anything that Jeff sent you with a message to tell us?
No, just that, I can touch on what we did today. We had our ratings call with S&P, which I think went well. Tom, John, myself, Jeff was remote from Puerto Rico, and we gave a presentation to them, and I think they were pleased with how well we are doing financially in Southbury, and we should find out November 25th what our rating is going to be.
Stay tuned. Dan, any questions of Dan other than the consent agenda on fiscal matters?
Yeah, I have a,
Yes,
again, you do a really good job putting information out now, but you drive me nuts because now I have to pay attention. And when I pay attention to it, I always have questions, right? First,
Press your button.
remind me what,
Remind me what small cities means?
Small Cities is the grant program that's given to us by the HUD. It's zero interest loans. It's income-based for people to do renovations in their homes, and they either can pay it back at zero interest or when they sell the property. But we put a lien on their property until either they sell or pay the loan off. And it's given in $200,000 tranches, so we're still actually working on the payback from the 2016 loan. So as funds come in, they're dispersed back out to needy people that, apply for it.
Okay, great. So all the small cities columns relates to that.
It just relates to that, yep.
Okay. Can we go to page 12?
annual report? Of which, the annual report? Of Dan's report? I'm
Dan's
sorry,
report, yeah.
Dan's report.
So it'll be, what would be page
Yeah,
12?
this one. Let's see. There was something about,
It'll be the capital, Betsy, the one with the Fund 400 Capital Projects Fund.
The big green thing in the upper right-hand corner.
So you keep scrolling,
Keep going.
keep scrolling,
Keep-
that's
keep-
general
when you get
fund,
the-
general
keep-
fund.
no, it was back, it was
Right,
back,
yeah.
it was back, it was,
It's right,
it
should be
was-
the next one. Is that it?
There
Tom?
you go.
no. Back, it was back up on the top. It was
Oh.
back where she was originally, and
The
I
different
was trying to
page.
read it.
Oh.
Yeah.
There was something in here called investments. I put page 12.
It's on the balance sheet, Tom.
Is it a balance sheet item, Tom, or P and L item?
Yeah, maybe.
Fund
Yeah, it's
ba-
probably on the first page, Betsy, or the first page. Investments. So what that is, Tom, is if you keep scrolling up, Betsy, sorry. It's right there. So if you look under investments, the library gift fund, that's what's in IPOC.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the value of the fund as of October 31st. So that's the reserve portfolio, less the cash, and the library gift fund less the cash.
Okay, and I guess I asked you this after, I'm never quite clear about the stuff that's not in IPOC. Where does that?
So the STIF is actually in the top line, the cash and cash equivalents. So that's the $35 million that's swept out.
Uh-huh.
And if you scroll down, Betsy, scroll down, keep scrolling, sorry. Scroll down just a little bit further. No, keep going, sorry. Keep going. Keep going. I think it's right after these, keep going. Right there. So Tom, if you see up here, this is what's in the ICS account, which is our sweep account for Ion Bank, and then we have a sweep account in Newtown Savings as well. So all those funds every day is swept out and invested in STIF accounts throughout the country and various accounts. So I think in the Ion Bank, there's about 250 accounts to keep it below the Fed insurance, FDIC insurance rate. So our money, all of our funds are protected as they sweep out.
Okay, so roughly, the total of those two is what's in STIF?
Yeah.
Okay,
Those two are actually are what's in STIF, those two balances right there.
okay, all right, good. What does due to other funds mean?
We have a due to and due from, so if we pay a bill, let's say out of the capital fund and the general fund, it creates a receivable in the capital, a receivable in the general fund and a payable in the capital fund.
So it's
It's
just
just
our
fund
internal
accounting.
accounting,
It's our
really.
internal accounting. At the end of the year, we'll true all those back up and move the cash the proper way it should be done.
I'd submit the simplest way to understand that is, every fund does not have its own checking account. So one checking account, generally for the general fund, is used. And if we happen to pay a bill for another fund, well, then the other fund owes the general fund that money. And that's what due to, due from is,
Yeah,
simplest
I
form.
just-
And you don't sweep it till the end of the year.
Sweep it at the end of the year.
Okay. All right.
Periodically.
I'll trust,
Periodically,
I'll
Whenever-
trust that you do all that properly, okay.
We use accounting, not checkbooks.
I just, when I see big numbers on things, I sort
Yeah,
of-
if you look, the due to other funds is 24 million and the due from is 20, they net to zero. So it's just an accounting entry at the end of the year.
Yeah,
to
okay.
net back to.
There was some other things, surplus drawdown, there's a big surplus drawdown.
That's a budgetary item that every year, that's that piece of this, the budget that we use to offset like pension. There's a couple other things in there.
Yeah.
That's our earmarks, Tom, that we earmark at the end of the year,
Right,
in budget. That's what that is.
okay, okay. And then, I hate that you do this, but I guess you decided to do it, was put all the checks out. Because then I'd start looking at all the checks, the big ones, and wondering, who the heck is that and why are you doing it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know, the ones I wrote, so Finex Credit Union, who the heck are they?
The credit union is, our employees, have money in a credit union that we withhold from their paycheck.
Oh, I see, okay. And.
It's a pass-through through payroll.
And there's a bunch of, I mean, there's a lot of it in there, I guess, probably related to all fixing things, like, you know, I don't know, Clifton Layson LLP, are they?
That's our audit firm. That's our auditors.
Okay. Let's see, Principal Custody Solutions,
That's our quarterly pension payment.
okay. Cardinal Engineering Associates.
Cardinal Engineering is the construction company that did the bridge up behind the training school.
Okay, and,
Purchasebrook.
okay. And Northwest Hills Dealership?
Those are two police vehicles, actually 4 police vehicles. It's the chief's car, the deputy chief's car, and 2 patrol vehicles. So it's all in the replacement plan.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions from
Hey,
anybody?
Why is there like a lot of individual names on that?
It's
small.
tax refunds, and you'll see a lot of individual names for the people that work the elections. Next month, you'll see a lot as well, because we pay them outside of payroll. But most of the individual names are tax refunds.
Dan, just one question on STIF.
Yep.
I'm
No,
on,
just close, hold it close.
where, with all the market gyrations with the change of administration, where's the STIF rate sitting right now?
4.9, I believe.
So
it
it's
was
actually,
today.
yeah,
Yeah.
the market concerns have driven short-term rates up again.
A little bit, yeah.
And people are thinking the Fed is not going to cut according to its original
Yeah, we started,
projections
we
here.
started the fiscal year at 5.4, and we're at 4.9 right now.
Yeah, so that should work in our favor here.
Should. Any other questions from Dan about the consent agenda, all the financials that you were given?
That's all mine.
Hearing none, we'll move on. Transfers.
No transfers.
No transfers.
Cell tower, we're still working on that. I just haven't had a chance to really reach out to the people that we're dealing with, so hopefully, as things quiet down next week, we'll have a better understanding from them.
Reports. Tom, IPOC.
Yeah, we had an IPOC.
We had an IPOC meeting. As of September, the reserve fund is up 3.4%. The pension's up 6.9%. The gift fund's up 6.4%. Probably all of them up higher now. But the only number that counts is the one at the end of the year. Don't think there was anything significant coming out of IPOC that we need to review here. Anything you remember, Dan, that was?
No, I think you're right, Tom. There wasn't really anything. It was a quick meeting, nothing significant other than, the returns were good for this period as well. And, hopefully we can keep that going.
Janet?
The board met on September 23rd and reviewed the status of their bond projects. Some are completed, and they seem to generally be coming in under their estimates that they bonded for. They also met on the 28th and approved field trips to France and London. And the only other thing is the PES feasibility study committee, which I was hoping you could speak to, John, because I know you met.
I will.
Oh, I
I
didn't see
should
it
do
on the
that now.
agenda. Yeah, I didn't see it on the agenda. That's why I thought I'd
I,
bring it
I
up
will- I
now.
will do that now under the Board of Ed. A committee of 15 people has been appointed to do two things at this point. One, recommend an architectural firm specializing in education to determine what can and should be done relative to Pomperog and Gainfield elementary schools. Tear down, replace, repair, consolidate, et cetera. Build elsewhere, open. They have made a recommendation to the Board of Ed. The Board of Ed has retained the architect to do that. The second project for this 15 group of people is to recommend to the Board of Education a construction management firm to review the cost estimates that the architect is going to come up with for the 2, 3, or 4 scenarios, or 5, or who knows how many scenarios, whatever those cost estimates are. Those cost estimates are central to a decision, and the Board of Ed doesn't want them to fall under the purview of just one group. They want a second set of eyes on the estimates themselves. The committee is meeting, I think, next week to start to review the proposals that have come in from the people who want to be the construction manager. And hopefully sometime before the end of December, that committee will make a recommendation to the Board of Ed, and the Board of Ed will hire a construction manager to vet the cost estimates of the architect on the various proposals. So that is in the works.
And I was wondering, what is the architect firm costing?
Costing,
Yes, what is the budget for that? Them, just the architect to do the, do you know?
I have never seen the document. I know numbers were floated. I don't think it's my place to float those numbers.
Okay, I can ask
But
them directly.
I was assured that the architect's fees, because I asked, were significantly less than what was reserved by the Board of Ed, because that the reserved monies must cover the architect's fees for what they were originally scoped for. It is highly likely that something will come along in the process that will expand the scope, and someone has to pay the construction managers. So that's
And-
where that is.
And one more question, I read all the minutes from your committee meetings, and most of the minute, you're in executive session,
Mhm.
so there aren't any minutes. But do you know, has the committee, or will the architects be reviewing the past studies that have been done? Because there's at least 2 times that the boards, different boards of eds in the past have looked at this very issue and have paid for comprehensive studies and reviews. So I'm wondering if that data is on the table to be reviewed.
Without disclosing something I shouldn't from an executive session, one, the fact that those studies exist is known.
Okay,
And personally, I can't imagine any responsible architect that wouldn't look at those. You'd be crazy not to. But that's up to them. Anything else, Janet?
no, those are all the
Okay.
One,
questions.
I had one,
Yeah, Jack?
one follow-up
Go
question.
ahead.
is your committee and the Board of Ed working on a schedule? To a schedule?
I,
And if so,
I think, I'm trying to remember what they told us. Our committee's supposed to make its recommendations by the end of the year. I don't, you'd have to ask a Board of Education member. I do know that they are highly aware of state and of issues relative to timing, and I doubt if they're dragging their feet. I don't think they're dragging their feet, but
I did see a timeline laid out in your very first meeting notes of the committee.
oh, okay, there was one?
There,
I
yes.
didn't remember that.
I don't know if it's a hard and fast timeline, but I did
If
see.
it was
I
laid
did
out
see
in the
one laid
minutes,
out,
well,
like,
yes, there is one.
Meeting 1, meeting 2, meeting 3, meeting 4, these are what are gonna happen in these meetings. I don't
That's
know
for
that there
our
were
committee.
dates connected.
That's for our committee.
Yes,
As
but I
far,
don't know that there were dates connected with the meeting 1, meeting 2, meeting 3, meeting 4, but it looked like about 9 or 10 meetings are estimated, and
whatever.
John, one
And-
question?
so
Yes.
there is some stuff
Oh,
on
hang
there.
on
Hold
just
on,
one
let
second.
Jack
The-
finish.
Sure.
The architect has been hired?
I believe he has been,
Do you know
yes.
when you expect to receive their report?
I am not on that committee. That's a Board of Education thing. All we're doing, all our charge is select an architect, so make a recommendation for an architect, make a recommendation for a construction manager. If they ask us to do something else later on, well, that's for a later date. Yes,
I was told way back when, it takes about 10 years from the time a school is approved till time it actually is built. Be that as it may. If we should get like a bunch of affordable housing, how is that going to change the numbers of your studies?
couldn't begin to guess. There are demographers have 10 and 20-year plans that the state requires, and I have no idea what,
Yeah,
I
I was
don't
just,
know.
you know,
I don't know. You might ask the board, go to a Board of Education meeting and ask them. I have no special knowledge. I got other
Okay.
things to worry about
well,
other than all
I
this
was
stuff.
just curious if they were taking into account,
I
you
don't
know,
know.
if we should change with affordable
don't know.
housing and how that would affect things.
It's a good question for the Board
For
of
them,
Education.
okay.
John, yes.
Just a question.
Closer, please.
Just a question about your comment on executive session.
Mhm.
What's the basis? I mean, when we talk numbers, they're up there, they're estimates, and we publish them.
What's the basis of an executive
What's
session?
the basis of them claiming or wanting to do this in executive session?
John,
Because my knowledge of executive session, there are only certain things
John,
under
John,
statute you can do it.
excuse me, that is out of our purview. It's got nothing to do with us. Their attorney has told them that it is appropriate for an executive session on whatever theory they have. So it's got nothing to do with us. If you want to talk to them about that, go to a Board of Education meeting and ask them, period. What we might think, it has nothing to do with it,
Well, just
nothing to do with it.
a point, you can't actually ask any questions at a Board of Ed meeting and get answers. As
Well, you
member
can make
of
a
the
public comment.
You can make public comments, but you can't ask and expect that you will get an answer to a question.
Well, you can ask the question, but you shouldn't expect an answer. As a public
Exactly,
comment.
But I was just
Yeah.
clarifying, because you're saying go and ask, but you know, you won't get an answer. Right.
John-
It's not legal for them to give you an answer. It's not that they don't want to answer, but if it's, you know, but it's not legal.
As a member of the committee, I have been assured it was legally appropriate and proper for us to go into executive session, their attorney has told us. So why, I don't know. I don't want to get into that. Not going to argue with them. Any other questions?
One more comment about
Sure.
the education stuff. So we had a pension meeting
Yes.
for the region, and it reviewed the actuarial report for the year. And both Josh and Marion were there, so we had a good discussion about the oversight of their pension, and so I feel like from a governance perspective and lots of other ways, they've been really taking to heart our advice and moving in the right direction in that regard.
That's
They're, I guess it's public information.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, they're less well-funded than we are. But, you know, again, they have a kind of working plan to get more funded. They're in the ballpark of other, you know, they're not ridiculously less well-funded on an average than I mean, so if you look at them versus municipal kind of plans, they're in the middle of the pack, okay, which is maybe a different standard than we might have. They're also at 6.75%, which is a higher level. But again, to their pension advisor, they're in the middle of the pack, and there's, I think, no overwhelming reason for them to change the standards of what they're using there, okay? So
Okay.
anyway, that meeting happened, and they both asked me, Josh and Marion, you know, is there something that the town would like to see them do more on this? And I said no. I said I think they've done a lot of the progress that I've asked them to do. I think they're trending in the right direction in terms of how they're running at least the governance of it, right?
For those of you who weren't here 10 years ago, Mr. Riley was our representative in their finance committee. And they, I think because of John, significant change has been made over time. And we had to thank John for that, to bringing it to their attention.
He did get booted, but besides that.
After Riley was ridden out of
Yeah,
town
he got
on a
rid-
log
well,
over there
he
for
was
raising
asking-
issues.
He was asking difficult questions that many of the then board members didn't want to pay attention to. And there are new board members and new relationships, and they are now paying attention better.
Well, I was on the board when John got booted, and it was not from the board members. I just want to clarify that. It was not the board members.
Oh, it was-
There
oh, it was
no
from the-
there was no discussion. It just happened independent of the board members.
Janet is absolutely right.
So
Okay.
let's not besmirch the board
Yeah.
that was in place at that
Yeah,
time. But I
there
would
was an
like-
issue that the board was not being given accurate information by the finance director of what was going on.
Who is
And
no
I
longer
would
there.
like,
Guys, I'm sorry. Let's stay away from that for the time being, please.
Well, I'm not gonna go in on that subject, but I do want to say that I think it's really a positive thing that the pension committee has town representatives on it.
Yeah.
And I wish that the finance committee could go back to having representatives from the town on it.
Okay, we got to move on.
Just one
And
question
you
to
know,
Tom.
that.
Yes.
Tom, can you be a little more accurate on middle of the road? What is their funded status?
They're 70s. I
They're
don't
in
know.
the 70s and we're in the 90s, okay.
Right, and it's about 6.75, okay? Both of-
6.75.
Right, so, yeah, return consumption, which,
that's-
other things, for those who don't speak pensionese, 6.25 is better than the 6.75 in
Right.
terms of being more
Much.
conservative.
So
okay?
they are assuming a higher rate of return going forward than,
But again, they're not, you know, they're middle of the road on that. We've chosen to be we personally have chosen a very,
Conservative?
you know, very conservative approach to our pension, right? And so I think it's more a sign of that we're an outlier in terms of being on the good side, right? They're more middle of the road.
Okay, let's, I think we've had enough of that. And this is perfectly appropriate to bring it up at the school budget time next year. That's the time to bring it up with them.
Well, but I've told them, I mean, they asked me
Uh-huh.
about that, and I said, okay, well, here's some, you know, we've made good steps this way.
Yep.
And for instance, I don't believe it's our place to ask whether they want to be middle of the road or meet our standards, right? In terms of, I mean, we have fairly high standards about our pension. I don't think we need to ask them to meet our standards about their pension necessarily, you know.
Move,
Moving on.
You can, but that's not my role.
moving along. Okay, Insurance Working Group, no report. Jack, Bridges and Roads,
Nothing to report.
nothing?
Nothing we haven't talked about already.
As far as Bridges and Roads, I think we reported that the First Selectman has a working group to help on bridges and roads relative to the FEMA thing, and Jack is a mainstay on that. For those of you who don't remember, he is a civil engineer way back when. He is an expert on Chicago sewers, among other things.
And Venezuelan dams.
And Venezuelan dams, okay. RUPAC, no report. Strategic Planning, Mr. Riley, John?
Nothing new.
No report. Energy Task Force, Tom?
The RFP is out, is that correct, right, Dan?
I believe that's correct, yes.
Yeah, for the for the solar project at the transfer station. John pointed me to an article that Winstead has done a kind of similar project, so I've been reaching out to them to see if we can get any information out of what they've learned from their explorations in there. But yeah, once we get the information back from the RFP, then we'll be more concreteness to the whole project.
Others have done,
5-year paybacks, not 11.
others have done these things, and their thinking might be instructive to us as we decide whether or not we should do it. That's all I'm saying.
Learn from other people.
Well, I think the big question, especially now after the flood, is and John would say this, I'm a little bit on a slightly different thing than him, but we weren't paying attention to that. But the kind of own versus lease, or, PPA, yeah. That's the part that I think would be the more interesting discussion, okay, when we get there.
For me, personally, when free enterprise people, not governments, free enterprise people decide to build these things, well, they understand the numbers to a level that should be instructive to us. So that's why,
Well, again, if I were with you and we were a team, I might be more in the owning factory, but I can't maintain my own toothbrush. So the kind of idea of trying to maintain a solar panel to me just goes beyond my comprehension or my desire to really want to be in that business. But anyway, they'll all be presented in due time. But for right now, we're just getting the quotes and things.
okay. Next, the ARPA accounting. Dan, anything?
No, we're hoping to have a meeting Thursday before the Board of Selectmen meeting.
It would be appropriate, because it's a regular meeting, to add to the agenda anything that someone needs to think we ought to be addressing. Are there any such items? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Just like that, Monday night.